Welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast, brought to you by TournamentPokerEdge.com, the only podcast dedicated exclusively to poker tournament strategy. Now here's your host, Clayton Fletcher.
Hello once again, everybody, and welcome to the Tournament Poker Edge podcast. My name is Clayton Fletcher, and I am in gorgeous, serene, peaceful New York City. Happy to be bringing you yet another edition of the world's longest running poker strategy podcast ever. I'm not alone. This is 3 weeks in a row. I'm actually having a real conversation with another human being. And this week, it's one of my favorites, one of your favorites. He is the founder and CEO and owner and grand poobah and head honcho of Tournament Poker Edge. He's also my favorite streamer, Derek Killingbird Tenbusch. How are you, Derek?
I'm doing good, Clayton. How are you tonight?
Good, good. You've been streaming quite a bit lately. How's that going?
It's going good. Been having fun. ACR's had so many good series going and just promotions and stuff like that. So it's been keeping me very busy, trying to win tournaments, but also trying to win seats into WSOP events and WPT events and whatever else they got going on. So it's been busy.
Yeah, twitch.tv/Killingbird. That's where you can find his stream. It's really fun. We've talked to Derek a number of times, obviously, on the podcast that he created over the years. And Derek, one thing I've always loved about your Twitch stream is that it is fun. I'd say that's the first word I would use to describe it. Like if you're looking for GTO and you want a streamer who's going to explain the nuances of all the little strategy things about every little move he's making, that's not what Derek offers. Derek's got a good time. He does have some strategy content, of course. There's a lot of poker going on along with the shenanigans, which can range from drinking whiskey to watching the Miami Dolphins play.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get. Every once in a while, I'll start talking strategy, and some of my regulars will be like, "What is this? A strategy show? Get back to the drinking."
Yeah, stay on brand, buddy. What are you doing? Yeah. So you told me before we started recording, Derek, you've got some travel coming up. What's going on? Anything exciting? Where are you headed?
Yeah, it's actually going to be like a whirlwind trip. I'm heading down to Mississippi to see my son and his new wife. And then he and I are driving over to Houston, Texas to see the Dolphins play.
Nice.
Then we head to New Orleans to get on a cruise ship to Mexico.
Wow.
And then we get back the day before Christmas Eve, and we'll spend Christmas Eve with them, and then drive back, or spend the Christmas week with them, and then drive back. So be traveling pretty much the last half of December. So it's going to be a really fun trip, but a lot of miles on the truck.
You gotta love it. I mean, it sounds to me like quality time with the fam, and that's what the holidays are all about.
Yep.
So I'm here for it, man. That's terrific. I've been traveling quite a bit myself. I just did some gigs in the Pacific Northwest, state of Washington, state of Oregon. I was in a town called Medford, Oregon. Have you ever heard of it?
I have.
Yeah. What do you
know why I've heard of it? I think maybe Oregon State is there, or I'm not even sure.
Yeah, I don't know about the colleges, but I did perform at a place called Chadwick's Pub, which was a really cool little venue. It's inside this nice hotel. They have an indoor swimming pool, a jacuzzi, 2 different restaurants, really cool. Very, very good venue. And, at night they have a comedy show, and I got to get up there and do my thing. So it was awesome. And then on my free time, I went to go check out the local poker scene, which I had heard about from my friend Jackie Burkhart, who lives in Oregon, and had told me many times that every town in Oregon has these little poker rooms and stuff. So I've got to tell you about the good and the bad. Okay, I'm going to start with the bad, Derek, and let me know what you think about this. Saturday night, I get off stage about 9:30. I had a few copies of my book I was selling and signing for people and stuff. And yeah, just hanging out with the audience after the show, just having a good time and meeting people and stuff. So maybe about 10 o'clock, 10:30 at the latest, I go to this place called the Medford Poker Club, which I thought it sounded good. Or it might be called the Medford Poker Room. Either way, I don't want you guys to go there, because here's what happened when I get in. I get there, and this guy who I thought might be drunk says, "All right, now the game can start." And I didn't realize this at the time, but he actually worked there. He might even be the owner. I'm not sure. So, and then I noticed that the only game they had going was actually breaking. So when I walked in, he said the game can start, but actually the game that had already been broken was like, these guys were racking up. You know, they were cashing out their chips and getting ready to go. Mind you, it's Saturday night, 10:30. I would think any good poker room would be, you know, rocking and rolling around that time, right?
Yeah, you'd think.
Yeah. So, you know, this guy, I don't know what he was doing, maybe trying to trick me into staying, or I don't know what was going on. So now I Ubered over there, you know, because I didn't have a car in Oregon. And so I'm waiting for my Uber to take me back to my hotel, because obviously I'm not going to be playing any poker tonight. The only game they had, by the way, it was only 1-2, and that game broke. So I asked the lady, once she finished racking up all their chips for them and stuff and paying everybody out, I asked her about, I saw somewhere that there was a tournament there the next day. So here's the tournament. It's $100 buy-in with a $20 entry fee, which, I mean, that's fine at 20%. But there's another $20 that you can give to the dealers and get another $5,000 in chips. And your starting stack is, I think, 10,000. So do you want 50% more chips for another $20? Obviously, everybody's going to throw in the extra $20, right?
Yeah.
But at this point, you're paying basically 40% rake. And I don't care if you're the best poker player in the world, you can't beat 40% rake. So no. I said, forget that. I think it's the highest I've ever seen. Have you ever seen higher than 40%?
I don't think so. Not in. No, I feel like I used to play a few like sort of underground tournaments around the Raleigh area, and I feel like they had sort of a similar setup where you could buy additional chips or something, but I don't even think it was that high as far as I recall. It might have been like 15% and then an extra 10 or something.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when I don't think Phil Ivey could beat that rake. Honestly.
No, I think the only way you play in that game is, one, if you don't know what rake is and what ROI is, or two, if you're just there purely for the entertainment. Yeah,
I mean, sure, if you're going out, you know, like just gambling for fun, like playing a slot machine or something, then that's, you know, if that's the way you're looking at your poker spending, that's fine. But I just feel like most of us are out here trying to turn a profit from our little hobby, right? So yeah, it's crazy, man. So I was like, all right, so forget it. I'm not coming back here tomorrow for the tournament. But now I have another Uber coming to take me back to my hotel, and I've got like an 8-minute wait. By the way, it's like 25 degrees outside. And that same guy that had yelled at me when I first walked in, I was looking around and he's like, "Hey, you don't go there." And I was like, "Excuse me?" And he's like, "No, you don't go there. You don't go over there." I was like, "I'm just looking around." He's like, "Yeah, don't."
What does that even mean?
So I'm just looking, like they had a TV on, and I was looking at some of the college football games, and you know, I wasn't like going into some restricted area, like trying to break into his office or something. Like, what does this guy think I'm doing? So anyway, and then he tells me, "We're closed." I was like, "Yeah, I understand, but when I got here, you said the game was going to start, and I let my Uber drive away, so now I have to wait for another ride." And he's like, "Well, you don't have to wait in here." I was like, "Are you really going to wait outside in the cold? It's 25 degrees. And he goes, "I don't care what you do." I was like, all right. So this is my first and only impression of the Medford Poker Room. And it was not a good one.
It doesn't sound good. Did you leave him a Yelp review?
I definitely left a negative Google review. And then, I had the whole next day free, and obviously I wasn't going back there for their 40% rake tournament and the rudest poker room manager I've ever met. So I went to this other place called the Aces Poker Room. It's also in the town of Medford, Oregon. And I went there in the afternoon, like maybe 1, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, these guys couldn't have been nicer. They, the owner of the place introduced himself to me. My name is Roger. Is it your first time here? He gave me like a 10% bonus, or a $10 bonus. Like I bought $200 worth of chips. He gave me $210. I sat down right away. The guys started introducing themselves. Like the players were just as friendly as the guy that was running the room. I couldn't believe it. Again, it's just a 1-2 cash game. And most of these guys were retired, like old guys, you know. Mm-hmm. One guy was like, my name is Pappy. This here's Casey. You know, they're like introducing themselves to me, which, you know, I play in Atlantic City a lot. I'm like East Coast quite a bit. So when people are that friendly in poker, I don't know, it's just refreshing. You know, it felt really like a home game.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, I feel like any game that has a guy named Pappy in it is just going to be a friendly game.
Oh yeah, Pappy was great, and he had a great sense of humor, you know. And at some point, I don't remember how we got into it, but the guys found out what had brought me to Medford in the first place, which was the gig at Chadwick's Pub, and they wanted to tell me their favorite jokes, and you know, we were all just kind of laughing and carrying on. In the meantime, Derek, while all this is going on, I am running so pure. I'm running like I've never seen anyone run better than I did at this little 1-2 game with the retirees in Oregon. I literally hit every set, every flush. I made quads, like everything. It was ridiculous. But, you know, they all had a great sense of humor about it. I ended up winning like $1,000 playing 1-2.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. I literally won like probably 90% of the hands I played. It was probably the sickest, good luck I've ever had at a poker table, which is ironic because it's probably the smallest stakes I've ever played live.
Yeah, just your luck. You finally run hot, and it's in a 1-2 game.
Yeah. It got to be ridiculous after a while. Like, you know, they were all just, you know, you go against Clayton right now, it's like jumping in front of a moving train, you know. I was, you know, just a total sun run, you know.
And did you tell them the story from the night before?
I did. I told them about that. And a lot of them said, you know, in fairness, they did say, I don't know, he must have been having a bad day. Usually those guys are all right over there. They didn't pile on, which that made me think they were even more classy.
Right.
Like even the guys from this joint weren't going to talk trash about their competition.
Yeah.
So
that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, so shout out to all those guys, Tim and Roger at the Aces Poker Room in Medford. They gave me a hat. You know, they have merch. They gave me some merch. It was like such a great experience, a great way to spend my last day in Oregon. So no cool. Tournament discussed from that, but when you travel around and after the show, a lot of times comedians, they get into like, you know, heavy drinking or drugs and alcohol, you know, just all that kind of stuff. And I feel like poker kind of keeps me off the streets and out of trouble.
Yeah, that's a good point. It gives you something to do. Because I do feel like every documentary I've ever watched about a tragic comedian has been trouble they got into after their shows. Like you said, go back to their hotel room and doing things they probably shouldn't be doing. Yeah.
I mean, you know, just getting a bunch of strippers and, you know, coke and all this kind of. I've never been into that stuff. You know, I'm just like, I want to. Every time the show's over, my first question is, does anybody here know where I can go play some cards? So, I mean, I suppose gambling is also a vice in some people's minds, but. To me, compared with what else I'm offered every time I go to a comedy club, it's probably the best, the least of all the evils that I could face. So
it's not a vice if you can win $1,000 in a night.
Yeah. I mean, that was a really good night. Put a nice little ribbon on a nice little bow on the trip or whatever. But yeah, I'm happy to be home. I'm a little bit jet lagged, but. You know, you and I had planned on recording this week, so I definitely wanted to catch up with you. The listeners always ask me, when is Derek coming back on? Especially the ones that are like the originals, like the OG listeners that remember when it was you and Casey and Mark and who else would have been back then? Danny, Tim, right?
Yeah. It's funny too, because I've had a lot of people in my Twitch stream lately who have been saying, yeah, I've just started and I'm on like episode 7 or whatever. And I'm just thinking, oh man, what a ride they are about to go on.
Yeah. And the strategy back then, some of it probably wouldn't apply today, knowing what we know now, just because it's so outdated, right? Yeah. You'll be doing a hand where Casey will say, so the guy opens the standard 3.5x big blinds.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be cool though to go back and like, it's kind of like, I don't know, your favorite TV series or something. Like you wish you could go back and watch it for the first time.
Yeah, check it out. Yeah.
That would be cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. All right. So, lately I've been having a lot of guests. I've been on a real good streak here. This is 3 in a row. Nikki Limo came on last week. She was an amazing guest, as always. She and I have so much in common. She's a poker loving comedian, or a comedian who loves poker, however you want to say it, and she's, really doing great. She's making a lot of content for a lot of different companies. And she's signed with Ignition Poker as a pro for them, which is awesome for her. Very, very cool. Of course, before that, we had your friend and mine a couple of weeks ago. Alex Fitzgerald was on. We love the Assassinato.
Yeah,
he always gets so good. He gives me so many pearls of wisdom and things to think about. And it seems like every time I turn around, the guy's got a new book out. He's like a machine.
I know. I don't know. He's like a content creating monster. I don't know how he does it.
Yeah, I think he has like a daily newsletter. It's unreal. Like he just constantly putting out content. And, I've never seen anyone with more passion for poker than Alex has. I mean, that guy truly, truly loves this game with all his heart. And, it really shows.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to just, keep the podcast going, keep the listeners happy. And it's more fun for me if I have somebody to talk to. I get tired of talking to myself after a while.
It's like if I was Twitch streaming, but nobody was watching.
Yeah, it's like at some point someone's going to watch this or listen to it, but I'd rather get that feedback right away. That's what we comedians are used to, getting the instant feedback. So, yeah. So, GTO Wizard is amazing. It's the best thing to me on the market right now if you're trying to improve your game. At some point, I'm going to go back and review all the hands that all of my guests have brought on the recent podcast and use GTO Wizard to see, exactly how far off we are. But one thing I've been doing lately on Twitch, and I know we're live on Twitch right now, and it's apparently frozen. Sorry about that, everybody. But, I'm just a laptop. I don't even have a proper setup at my house. So whatever comes out, it comes out. But, yeah, my stream is twitch.tv/Clayton Comic. And one thing I've been doing on there, I've been actually playing with GTO Wizard, and people are watching and chiming in and trying to guess what the output is going to be from the solver. So we're kind of almost like doing like a practice session together with some of the listeners, and that's been a lot of fun. When are you going to join in on one of those, Derek?
Yeah, you'll have to let me know next time you do one. I'll try to jump in there. I've statted on a couple other people who do stuff similar to that, and it's always pretty interesting. It's also good because I can kind of do it while I'm working on other stuff. Like I don't have, know, I have to pay some attention, but I don't have to be like hyper focused. So it's kind of cool. Yeah. So make sure you let me know. I'd love to jump in.
Yeah, well, it's a great way to like just kind of find out how little I know about poker. I'm saying, oh yeah, well for sure this is going to be a 4-bet, and then it's like the solver calls 98% of the time. Okay, yeah. So I was wrong again. But yeah, I mean that's kind of the fun of it, is just figuring out what the solver is trying to tell us. Like, why does the solver do what it does? And of course, usually on your Tuesday night home game or your Sunday stream that you do every week, Derek, you're not playing against the best players in the whole world. So you might not feel like you have to have every single GTO spot in the world. But I would say, like, even if you know that your opponents are going to make a lot of mistakes, you should still know what the GTO strategy is, so that you know what to deviate from and how far to deviate from it, right?
Yeah, and if nothing else, it's just sort of a consistent reminder to think about playing sort of outside the box, you know? That's my biggest probably weakness in terms of playing poker while also trying to chat and, you know, read things and watch videos and do everything else that I'm doing while I'm streaming, is I just find myself clicking buttons a lot, you know? I don't spend a whole lot of time going, well, what if I did this instead? That might be interesting. It's just kind of like, oh, okay, I have a flush draw, I call. Oh, you know, I turn a straight draw, I call. So it's like I said, if nothing else, it's just a good reminder to always be thinking of other ways you could have played a hand.
Well, it's hard to be too creative when you're like multi-tabling and you've got hundreds of people in your chat and everybody's trying to get the password.
Yeah.
And the dolphins are on and everything else. So yeah, I get it. You know, I don't know how much brain power we have left, especially when you're doing shots the whole time. So good luck with that.
And it was really chaotic on this past Sunday because as a test, kind of a test and kind of a special like Thanksgiving weekend thing, I raised the cap to 1,000 people and the chat just got out of control. It was just way too many people. I had to put it in slow mode.
Oh, really? Just so you wouldn't miss too many messages. Wow.
Yeah, so many people coming in asking for the password or whatever. But it was interesting. A lot of people thought it would take way too long, but it didn't actually end up going all that much longer than, you know, maybe another hour and a half, I would say, maybe from where it normally would end.
Yeah, I cashed in that. I cashed in that 1,000-player free roll. I think I won $4. Proud of it. You know,
I don't know if I've cashed in that free roll in 3 months. I don't know if it's that people are out to get me or that I'm just bad. But or I run bad. I'm not sure.
So maybe that's why they're coming for your bounty, bud.
Yeah, I think last week I ran kings and aces, so it wasn't my fault. And I don't care, like what the situation is. I'm not folding kings in a free roll ever. Not even the TPE free roll.
With 9-bet all in with kings and TPE. Yeah. Yeah. Well, guys, if you want to get your hands on some GTO Wizard love. We have a link. I'm going to put it in the description of this week's podcast, of course. But it's gtowizard.com/p/TPE. And you can see that in the description. Just click on that. You'll get 24 hours access to all of GTO Wizard's wonderful features, including everything we're talking about today and so much more. And then after that 24 hours is up, if you're ready to buy, you'll save 10%. Just because you clicked that affiliate link in the description. So make sure you do that. And I promise that in one of the next 2 or 3 weeks, I'm going to do a GTO Wizard review of all the hands I've discussed with all of the guests that we've had, including the one that we're about to do with the boss here, Derek. So, Derek, I know you said that the last time you were streaming, you picked out a hand and you were like, this is one that I want to do on the podcast. So do you remember what it's from? First question.
I do. After 15 years of doing this podcast, I finally decided it would be really smart if when I tagged a hand, I also put a note on it saying what the situation was. So it's the first time I've ever done that. So this hand is from what is now my favorite tournament, which is this $75K guaranteed mystery bounty with multiple flights on ACR.
Oh my God, crush these. These are the accumulators on ACR. It's $550, right? Yep. And you always seem to go deep in these things. What's your secret?
I wish I knew. I would say it's that I fire so many bullets that I start with a lot of chips, but I mean, there's plenty of people who have, like, I think I started in maybe like 70th place or something this time out of maybe 1,200 people, which is good. But I think there's more to it than that, and I'm really not sure if it's just that the structure fits my style. It could also be that I'm not being aggressive enough going after mystery bounties.
Right, cashing higher, but you don't go for the big prizes.
Yeah, which could be part of the problem. But I just find the tournament so fun because there's all you can play multiple flights every day for a whole month leading up to the day 2. So it's really cool for the viewers to kind of participate in. They can watch and see like, oh, how many chips you got now for day 2? How many chips you got now? And then when you get to day 2, it's fun because 20 or 30 people in my chat are also in it. And we're all opening these envelopes with mystery bounties in them, and it's just a fun sweat, So it's quickly become my favorite tournament on the site.
Everybody knows how I feel about mystery bounty. I think the mystery bounty format is the best thing to happen to poker in the last 10 years. I love anything that encourages players to gamble more and fold less and stop trying to ladder up. Mm-hmm. And I played in that big one they had during the summer. Chance Corneth was at my table. He ended up winning I'm talking about the win over the summer. Mm-hmm. Man, this guy was playing, I'm not exaggerating, maybe 80% of the pots. He had a lot of chips and he was going for the bounties. All about the bounties. He didn't even care. And he ended up getting first place. So obviously he ran good in the process, and clearly Chance is a world-class player. But I'm telling you, I thought I was opening up my game, and then I saw the extent to which this top pro opened up his game, and it was crazy. And he turned over some garbage. It's not like he was getting hit with the deck. He was playing every hand because he wanted those bounties desperately. When half the prize pool is in the bounties, you got to go for those bounties. It's that simple.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think that might be. I mean, I don't feel like I'm playing particularly tight in those situations, but it could be just a subconscious thing, or just that I'm so used to playing a normal tournament where you ladder up and you get more money. And but I do know, like specifically in this tournament, I remember that the big bounties were all gone by this point. So I think the biggest one was 7,500. That went really early. And then there was like a 2,500, a couple 2,500s. Those were gone. I think the biggest bounty available was 250. And then, I think after that it was like 100 and then 25 or something.
Yeah, I wonder, maybe your strategy is more correct. Maybe you don't want to be too crazy because, maybe Chance was playing that way because they still had, the big top prize, whatever it was, $250,000 or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so he was going for that big prize. But perhaps had that prize already been collected and they announced what prizes are remaining, then maybe it is better to go for the actual more traditional prize pool at that point. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is still a relatively new format, so we're still learning.
Yeah, I do kind of wonder how the game would play differently if you opened all your mystery bounties when you busted or won,
right?
One of the two. Because for people who haven't played them, you knock somebody out and their bounty reveals itself right there on the screen at that moment. So you know when things are gone. They have a little counter up in the top left corner where you can see everything that's been gone and what's still left. But yeah, it's a fun tournament. I final tabled it once. I think I finished 13th once, maybe 15th. And then this hand starts with 45 people left. So I tend to go deep in it. One of these days I'm going to win the thing.
You made the top 45 again. All right. So, So we've got 45 players left. What are the blinds at this point?
Blinds are 30,000, 60,000.
Okay.
And we're starting with 1.5, almost 1.6 million. So about 25 bigs. Okay. I don't remember a lot about this table, but I don't remember anything. There was nothing unusual about it. It just felt like a very standard sort of table. There's one guy directly to my left with 5.2 million, but then everybody else has basically around us or less. So we're in we're in a pretty decent spot.
Wow, this guy with 5 million, is he the chip leader in the tournament, or is he up there?
I think he was in the top 5.
Yeah, he's got it, right? Yeah.
And he's been pretty active. He's running I have 169 hands on him. I remember him being on my left, and he definitely made me kind of slow down a little bit because he was flatting a lot of my opens, not really 3-betting me that much, but he was just always in the pots with me. And of course he's to my left, so that's problematic. And I assume he was just bounty, kind of, he was doing the chance thing. He's like, I'll play as many pots as I can because I got 5x the chips of all these guys.
Right. It makes sense. Even if the biggest prizes are all gone, just general tournament strategy. If you have 3 times as many chips or 4 times as many chips as the next highest stack at your table, feel free to take a lot of liberties because people just want to ladder up. People don't really want to go out. So, you could kind of take advantage of people thinking that ICM is king. So that's basic tournament strategy. And make adjustments based on the playing style of your opponents, of course. But yeah, I don't blame him for opening a lot of pots and doing his thing.
Yeah. So this, like I said, this hand starts where we have about 25 big blinds. We are cut off. And we're 7-handed. So the 2 people to my right fold. And we look down at the ace-4 of spades. Or I guess in this case, look straight ahead at the ace-4 of spades because it's on my table.
You didn't have to look down. I guess you would be the hijack then, right?
Sorry. I said cut off, didn't I? Yep, hijack.
All right. So with 25 big blinds, ace-4 suited, I would just min raise. There's nothing else to do really.
Yeah, I think I agree. Like I said, none of these players really seemed particularly aggressive, where I'm expecting to get jammed on a bunch or whatever. So we just do our standard min raise, and it folds around to the big blind, who starts this hand with just over 20 bigs, maybe 22 and a half, 23 maybe, and he calls.
Okay, so we have fairly covered. He's got 22, 23 bigs. We have 25.
Yep. And just to give you an idea of this opponent, we have at this point had 213 hands on him. He was running 15, 10, 9. So pretty tight.
Yeah, that's snug, especially for a low stakes player. That's really snug.
Yeah. I guess the number there that does surprise me a little bit is the 3-bet of 9, which isn't particularly high, but is pretty high for a guy running 15, 10. So it kind of makes me think, when he has a hand, I feel like he's 3-betting it.
Yeah, he's tight aggressive.
Yeah. So we go to this flop. There's 322.5K in the middle, and the flop comes ace-8-5 with 2 clubs.
Okay, and we don't have any clubs.
We have no clubs. Ace-4 of spades.
Okay. So I'm assuming he checks to us.
He checks, yes.
There's nothing wrong with betting here. You can check. I mean, the problem with checking is you give a free card to a flush draw or a straight draw. I hate for this guy to hit a stupid gut shot just because I didn't want to bet my top pair. You know what I mean? Those are the ones that really kill you. So I guess on balance, just because it is somewhat of a wet board, I would mostly bet. But checking is fine. What did you do?
I decided to bet. Oh, correction. Sorry. I really did think I bet this. I checked back.
Oh, but maybe now you wish you had bet.
Maybe that's, my subconscious is speaking to me, wishing I'd bet. I don't really know why I checked back here, to be honest. I think that's kind of weird of me. Especially, like I was saying earlier, I tend to play a pretty straightforward style when I'm streaming, and I just feel like this would have been the natural thing here would have been to bet. So I'm surprised I did not.
I'm surprised you didn't too, because I know your game pretty well, and you are often playing multiple tables. So doing something tricky like checking back top pair is not really a big part of your game. But also, 25 big blinds do you want to get the whole stack in with ace-4? Right. So in other words, we do bet this flop. One reason to check is that your opponent can check raise with a lot of draws. So if you do bet this flop and you get check raised, are you really just going to flat call? I mean, you're going to be pot committed at that point or close to it anyway, right? As long as the sizing is reasonable. And so what are you supposed to do? And then fold when a scare card comes off on the turn and he fires again? I hate playing top pair that way with such a short stack. 25 big blinds, just not a lot of chips. Yeah. So but at the same time, do you really want to just get check raised and then shove with no kicker? I don't know about that either, I guess that would probably be the best play if you did get check raised on this board, just because it's going to be a draw so often. Right. But, sometimes it's going to be ace-8 or ace-5, and then you're going to be drawing dead, basically. So that's not fun either. So I guess, checking, what I'm saying is checking does have its merits, but I'm as surprised as you are that you did it.
Yeah, I was so sure that I was going to bet that I just said it before I even looked to see what I did. So I guess that's telling of how unusual this is for me.
Yeah, it is. All right, so check.
Yep, so we go check, and then the turn is the 5 of hearts. So now we have ace 8 5 5, and he checks again.
Okay, well, I think now we kind of have to bet, right? I mean, we've got probably the best hand. We've got top pair. We don't have a kicker, and all the draws that were present on the flop are present now as well. Although I think at some point our opponent might have bet. We didn't give him a chance to check raise us on the flop, so wouldn't he sometimes at least sometimes bet the turn if he had any 2 clubs or a hand like 7-6 or what have you? I feel like those hands actually bet on the turn if it went check on the flop. It's a great spot to semi-bluff, right? If you've got a draw and the original raiser chooses not to bet the ace high flop, that usually means he doesn't like the board, so he doesn't like the ace. So now I can take the pot away with 7 high, which is such a coup. I think the fact that he's checked us again makes me really want to bet. I bet like a third pot here, maybe like, I don't know, let's say like 110,000, something like that.
Yeah. I think I would normally have gone a little bit bigger. I actually don't know why I went quite this small. Maybe because he's so tight and has showed so little interest in this hand that I'm just like, well, it's not going to take much to win the pot, but I'm also not going to get value from really anything if I bet too big. I ended up betting a little under 81K.
So like a quarter pot, that's fine.
Pot, yeah. Which I think is fine. Okay, but I don't think it's bad or anything. I think it's, again, just a little out of character for me, but I think it was probably because I looked at his HUD stats and was like, well, this guy's pretty nitty, so I'll just try to milk a little bit from like 7s or something.
Yeah. What if he raises here? Like, what are you supposed to do if you bet and he raises? I guess we just fold, right?
Yeah, it would be pretty gross.
That is gross. I hope he doesn't raise. Does he raise?
He does not raise. He just calls. Okay. Which I think at this point, that's kind of the stuff I'm thinking he might have, like maybe 6s or 7s or, somewhere he's like, well, that's so cheap. I just gotta, I gotta call, and he's just maybe trying to get to a cheap showdown or something.
Yeah. So, in the old days, we used to talk about betting enough on certain streets to define our hand. Do you remember that terminology? We used to say, you want to define your hand. So if you bet too small, your opponent's call doesn't define your hand. And that's what you're talking about. Like, what if he's got pocket 7s, right? Pocket 6s. If you bet half the pot, he's going to fold those hands. But now that you bet so small, he just calls. We still don't really know where we're at or where we stand. But that doesn't bother me. I don't know if it bothers you, but I have no problem not knowing where I stand when I've got pretty short stack and I've got top pair. Like, I don't really want him to fold. So you're trying to get action with your small bet. So who cares if you defined your hand or not? The only problem with your bet is it does price in the draws. So again, if he's got the clubs or the straight draw, he's getting basically the right price to call. Although the board is paired and could be drawing dead, but he doesn't know that. So
right. Yeah, so we're a little bit in unfamiliar territory here, but I like my hand. I feel good about it.
And after he called, you're still happy.
Yeah,
I would be too. Yeah.
So once he calls, there's now 484K in the middle. River is the jack of diamonds. So the final board is ace, jack, 8, 5, 5. No flushes get there. No straight draws get there. And he checks to us again.
Okay, so the question is ace 4 strong enough to value bet versus a very tight opponent on this board? And I don't know what the answer is. It's unlikely that we can really get called. Maybe if he had a flush draw with like queen, jack of clubs, and he made a pair of jacks, right? Then maybe we can get a little action from a pair of jacks. We bet really small again. But if he has an ace, we're almost certainly beat, or at least chopping, right? We're almost certainly chopping, I should say. So what's the point of betting if you're just chopping? I don't think we can get another call from an 8 Like he might call you on the flop with like the hands you mentioned, like pocket sixes, pocket sevens, maybe like something eight, like 9-8 of spades or something. But I don't think any of those hands can actually call a river bet. So I don't think we have a value bet here on the river. So I think, as nitty as I'm sounding, I know we have top pair and all, but I just don't really see any point in betting it. So I would just check it and turn over my hand and hope my pair of aces is good. What did you do?
We bet 121K.
Okay.
483K. So about another quarter pot.
Yeah, a quarter pot again. Now, if we are going to bet, this is not bad, I don't think. I think this is a great sizing because, again, you're giving him 5-1, and maybe you can get called by hands that I don't think you can get called by, something like, Queen Jack of clubs or something like that. Mm-hmm. I'm having trouble thinking of hands that can pay off, but if there are any, they're going to pay off a small bet and not a big one. Right. So I like the sizing, but I would still prefer not betting at all. Does he call?
No, I would have preferred not betting too because he jams right in my grill. And it's really weird because I'm having a really hard time figuring out what he has and what he does this with. Because I feel like, I mentioned earlier that when he does seem to have big hands, he does 3-bet them. So if he had like ace king, ace queen, wouldn't he have 3-bet those pre?
And does he even check them on the turn?
Yeah, like he checks to me 3 times in this hand, which really confuses me. And like, let's just say he had like jacks, which I don't think he does, but like, isn't he betting that on the turn since I checked back the flop? Or like say he had 5-6, so now he's turned trips. Wouldn't he have bet that on the turn so I don't check back again? Like, I just can't figure out what hand he does this with.
Maybe jacks wouldn't lead the turn because he's still a tight player and there's an ace out there.
Yeah, fair.
But can he even check? He's got a full house on the river. Does he really check? This is such a it's a huge bet, too. It's a big shove because you managed to keep this pot pretty small with all your tiny bets.
Yeah.
And now he's still getting the whole thing in. I don't know. It doesn't really make sense to me.
And I do look really weak, like the way I've played it. But like if this guy was running 30-24 or something, like, I would be way more confident in calling. But I just don't know, like what hand a tight player does this with.
Well, let me ask you another question, just from a theoretical standpoint, kind of ignoring the fact that our opponent is very tight. If you're not calling with ace-4, what hands do you have that you play this way that are calling?
Yeah, it's weird because like I don't even know if I feel great calling with like ace-king.
Yeah, do we need like ace-jack or better? If so, we're very exploitable, I think.
Yeah. Part of my thought process was, what are the chances we're chopping? And do I want to call just for a chance to chop?
I don't think there's any chance we're chopping. The hands that chop just call. They don't shove on us.
Right. Yeah, that's probably true.
If he's got like ace-9, that's a chop, right? He's just going to call.
So it's either like he missed like king, queen of clubs or something, and he just reads me as weak, or he just has the nuts, or something equivalent to the nuts, like eights or something.
This is brutal, but when it makes this little sense, I just call. He's got 4 5s or nothing. So much. Like his play doesn't make any sense to me. Ace-jack? I don't know. Does he have ace-jack? I don't know. Like, I don't like the spot. But, yeah, I'm just going to trust my instincts here. It doesn't make sense. And when it doesn't make sense, I usually give action. So I call, and I hope you called too so we can find out what the heck this guy had.
I laid it down. I'm sorry to report. So we shall never know unless Logo Vras is out there listening to this podcast and wants to tell us what he had. We will never know the answer. I think in hindsight, I wished I had called. What I really kind of wish I had done was check the river. Not because I think it's the right play, but just because I would have known what he had and I maybe would have won the pot. But
I think it is the right play, Derek, because again, I don't really know what you can get value from.
Yeah.
You know, your quarter pot bet is not getting called by really anything. Maybe a jack, like we're value targeting a rivered pair of jacks.
Yeah, because I think, we talk a lot about how tight this guy is. I don't think, even the size of my bet, I don't think he's calling like nines or something.
No, I don't think he's calling with an 8 or pocket 9s or pocket 10s. And I'm not even sure you can get action from a jack, and it's hard for him to have a jack because all the jacks he has are flopped flush draws. So it's got to be specifically the jack of clubs. You are trying to get action from one card.
Yeah. The only thing I can think maybe what the kind of hand that could be explained by this player's relative nittiness is that he's so nitty that he wants to just get to the river and make sure that flush draw doesn't get there before he shoves his 5 or whatever.
Yeah, he could definitely have a 5. He could have 6-5, 5-4, suited or not, really.
Yeah. But I also think he would have bet those on the river. Like I don't think he necessarily would have jammed. But I don't know. I have known, speaking of like home games and underground cash games and stuff, like, those guys who are really tight, they love to check raise. Because they're so tight that they're afraid they won't get any action. So
Right. But why not check raise the turn if you're going to check raise?
Yeah.
Right.
Fair.
It could be jacks if he's that tight. But no, it's not jacks because he's got a 9% 3-bet.
Yeah.
Right. So he would have just shoved jacks pre-flop probably. I don't know. I mean, when it's this hard to even think of a hand the guy can realistically have, I put the money in and let him show me.
The more we talk about it, the more I think it's probably a call.
All right. Well, that's why you didn't win the tournament.
Yeah. See, I blew it. And I had him just covered too, so I would have got his bounty, whatever that was.
That is another small consideration. I know the big prizes are gone, but under these circumstances, when you're in a mystery bounty, there's one bounty out there. The prize is like $250. You said that's 50 buy-ins.
That was probably around like 9th place money or 10th place money or something. So. That's not
it's a lot.
It seems small when you just say $250, but when you think of it in the context of this tournament, it's not that small, and you do have to factor it in.
Well, you always show up with a hand that is fun to sink our teeth into. This one is bewildering. I don't think either one of us saw this check raise coming a mile away.
Yeah.
Wow. It's just what do we do? He's check raising all of a sudden. What the heck are we supposed to do with this?
Yeah. We live to fight another day.
And so what place did you end up getting in this one?
I think we finished around 20, I think 19th, actually. Exactly.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was another deep run. I've already qualified for day 2 of the next one, which I think is on like December 30th or something. So I got to get back for my road trip in time to play that.
This guy is the small stakes mystery bounty killer.
Yeah. And I think, I have to go back and look. I think there's actually like a middle, like a more mid stakes one. I think it's a 1650 this month. So I might have to start diving into that one too.
Yeah, I think you've accumulated enough envelopes at this point that you can afford the $16.
Yeah.
It seems like you're pretty hot lately. Would you say things have been going pretty well online?
Things have been going pretty good. Like we haven't had any huge scores, but we've definitely been going deeper more, and getting some decent ones. So yeah, I can't really complain. Now I need to like translate that into wins and then go play some live poker.
Well, I'm hoping you can. It's not too early for me. It's never too early to start thinking about next year's World Series. So I'm hoping you have just a sick run for the next 5 months, so that we can just take a whole month and go out to Vegas and you can play the main event. That's what I want for you. That's my wish for you for 25.
And it really won't be long because they usually announce the schedule like around February or something, right?
They've put out the main dates usually in December or January.
Wow.
And then they start teasing us with some of the things they want us to start getting excited about. Right now, of course, they're busy with WSOP Paradise down there in the Bahamas, which I will be skipping because I'll be in Las Vegas for the WPT Championship. And I'm not a thick enough traveler to do both. I know I'm doing both. I'm not doing both. No way. But yeah, we can get to Vegas. There's going to be some mystery bounty action out there. I'm still desperately trying to get into this WPT Gold passport $5 million free roll that everybody in the world is talking about. I'm still not in it. I'm trying desperately to get into that.
Yeah,
And,
fun.
see what happens. It's going to be a really sick event. WPT and the Win, they put on quite a show. So I'm
Best
just
venue
excited.
in Vegas.
Yeah, it's the best by far in Vegas. So, yeah, looking forward to it, and hopefully ending the year on a really strong note. I had a horrible World Series, and I haven't actually gotten to play that much tournament poker the rest of the year. So I'm looking forward to getting down and hopefully building up some stacks.
Nice. I did want to mention, too, before I jump off, December 10th, I'll be doing a special stream to celebrate my 10th year of streaming, which is absolutely crazy. December 12th is actually the 10-year mark, but got to do it on home game night. So if you're listening and you want to come hang out, you know where to find me, twitch.tv/Killingbird on December 10th. I'll have some giveaways and my plan is to just kind of like reminisce about the last 10 years, share some stories and talk about some of the crazier times we've had and just kind of hang out and have a good time. So come chill.
That sounds like a lot of fun. I'll be flying to Vegas at that time, or else I would certainly be joining and celebrating with you and proposing a virtual toast. Here's to swimming with bow-legged women, whatever that means.
You'll be there in spirit, I know.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else you want people to know about, Derek, before we say goodbye?
I think that's it for now, but since I probably won't be back on again before the end of the year, I do want to take a moment, wish all the listeners a very happy holidays, whichever of those you might happen to celebrate. Spend some good quality time with family, and then we'll all start kicking ass in poker again come January.
That sounds good to me, my man. And I know how busy you are, and you have multiple businesses that you're running. I really appreciate any time you can come and join me on the podcast that you actually started all those years ago, and now I just keep the dream alive.
And I appreciate it. I know they do too.
Yeah, absolutely. So for Derek Killingbird Tenbusch, and for everyone here at Tournament Poker Edge, I'm Clayton Fletcher. Thank you so much for listening.
I wanna hold them like they do in Texas Plays. Fold them, let them hit me, raise it, baby, stay with me. Log in intuition, play the cards with babes to start. And after she's been hooked, I'll play the one that's on her heart.